The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has shined. This word from Isaiah reminds us of how important light is in our lives. This time of year, we certainly enjoy candlelight. It can be very sentimental for us, very beautiful for us, moving for us. I think most of us are altogether very happy that we have other lights available as well, electric lights that we can enjoy a good deal. Otherwise, these might not be as useful as we sometimes would hope them to be. But light has always been a part of the Christian church and of many other cultures as well, an important thing, particularly in this time of year. It's interesting that in almost every culture, almost every religion, no matter how ancient or how contemporary it might be, during this period of time, people are drawn to light. Sometimes candlelight, sometimes bonfires on the hillside. People yearn for light because, as you know, this is the darkest part of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. We have the least sunlight. Very soon on the 21st, it'll be the shortest day of the year. That is the shortest amount of sunlight that we have during that period of time in this part of the world. So it's the darkest day. And yet at the same time, it is in that period of time that people yearn most for light. The ancients perhaps were just simply afraid their light wasn't going to come back again. And so they built big bonfires trying to entice the sun to return. We now know what it is that the winter has begun and that it's a dark day. And even beginning at that day, every day after it for a good long time, the light increases. Sometimes just seconds, sometimes just minutes, until in the middle of summertime, we have light for a good many hours here in this part of the world. But nonetheless, it's in the darkest days that most of the cultures have had some kind of celebration, some kind of event by which they honor the light, either by candlelight or lantern or bonfire, because it's very important that we celebrate that. St. John reminds us, the light shines in darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Of course, Jesus is that light, the light of the world of which we speak, and we yearn for his presence in our lives, certainly, and then indeed his presence can give light to an otherwise dark world. In this darkest time of the year, we have our Advent story and our Christmas story, that Jesus comes as the light of the world. And you'll remember in that story, particularly St. Matthew's version of it, there was some special light involved in all of that. That is the Christmas star, the Christmas light that is seen by the Magi, by the wise men in the sky. Now, some suggest that it was a particular star that shone only on that night, and perhaps that could be. More likely than not, it was a sign that the wise men or the Magi or the astrologers saw in the sky that suggested to them something important was happening and it needed to be checked out. And so some of them left their home wherever they were, got some special gifts lined up, and traveled to Jerusalem to check about a new king. The present king wasn't too happy about that, as you know, in Matthew's gospel. But nonetheless, they went to find the new king, and they found a child where the star rested above it, and they went in to worship. This year, interestingly enough, we have an interesting phenomenon that's happening and hasn't happened in over 800 years to the extent that we're talking about now. And that is that there's going to be a particular alignment on December the 21st, first day of winter. There's going to be a particular alignment of Saturn and Jupiter there in the sky. And it's going to show very brightly, almost like an intense new star. They're going to be so close together. We know this hasn't happened in over 800 years. Now, the planets do line up every now and then, almost every 20 years or so, but never with the intensity that evidently this is going to happen this particular December the 31st. I'm not really a sky watcher all that much. If I know it's going to be a particularly beautiful full moon, I may walk out onto the patio and look at it for a moment of time. Or if there's going to be a comet or a meteor shower of some sort, I may check it out for a little bit. But I don't watch the sky every night to see if there's any kind of signs and symbols that I need to know about. But nonetheless, it seems that this alignment that we're talking about taking place this year hasn't happened in 800 years. That might be worth checking out, I would think. Now, we do also know that 2,000 years ago, near the time when our Lord was born and came upon the earth, that it wasn't Jupiter and Saturn that had aligned with one another, but Venus and Jupiter had aligned with one another. So that indeed it was something spectacular that those that looked at the sky every night. It was something very unusual, and they thought it was worth checking out. Light has been used by just about every culture during a period of time, particularly during the winter time. Of course, our friends in the Jewish faith celebrate Hanukkah, which is a festival of lights, during this same general period of time of year. We know too, as I've said earlier, most of our Christian traditions and symbols we've borrowed from other cultures. And we know that in the same period of time that the church was deciding that this would be the time we would celebrate our Lord's birth, that Saturnalia was a very important Roman symbol, and it worshipped and honored the sun god. And so the people would light lights in honor of the sun god. Strangely enough, that bleeds into our own Christian tradition every now and then. Strangely enough, Charles Wesley, the hymn writer of Methodism, and one of his most popular hymns, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, talks about in stanza 4, I believe it is, as we have it in our hymnal now, it talks about Jesus being the Son of Righteousness. Now we say Jesus is Son of God, Jesus is Son of Man, so it stands to reason we would say Son of Righteousness as well. He is the product of righteousness. But if you look at the text of the hymn, it's not S-O-N, it is S-U-N. That Jesus is the light that produces righteousness. Even Charles Wesley, in his hymns, drew on the symbol of the light of how important it was in the life of the world. There is all kinds of darkness. There is physical darkness that comes in these, the shortest days of the year. There is also a spiritual darkness that we sometimes experience. That can be something we experience together as a people of God, particularly during this strange kind of year that we've dealt with already. But it can be individual as well. We each have our own dark lives. We each have our own dark days. And the joy of this season is that Jesus is the light of the world. That Jesus comes to fill up the darkness and give us the hope and the strength that we all need. The Lord be with you.